Okay, this video is going to be a quick tutorial on FileZilla, which is an FTP client. It's going to allow you to transfer files from your local computer to the CS server. Alright, so we have to know a couple things first. First, we just need to know how to connect to the CS server. And on all of our operating systems, we should have a terminal of some kind. On Windows, I have produced a tutorial on CYG Win, which basically gives us kind of a Unix, Linux style terminal in Windows. Mac OS terminals are very similar to Linux, so these commands should all work on all of our operating systems. Okay, so remember, the terminal is just a text-based interface to the computer. So if I open a terminal on my machine, I'm interacting with my computer via this terminal with just text commands. If I type ls, I'm listing out the directory of the contents of my home directory, right? If I type pwd, print working directory, I'm in my home directory. Now this is on my machine, okay? So we learned how to connect to the CS server already with SSH, and then our CS username. So the instructor account is cs151 at indstate.edu. Oops, at cs.indstate. Okay, now the first time you connect, you might see a message like this. It's making sure that you know what host you're connecting to. So you save a digital fingerprint of the host if you know that you've typed this incorrectly, right? So after this happens, after you save this fingerprint, you won't see this message anymore. But if you ever see this again, that means you're connecting to a machine that you haven't connected to before. So it's kind of an indicator that you might be connecting to a malicious server. Okay, so if you're normally connecting to the CS server and you happen to see this, you might have mistyped something, right? There might be something in the URL here or in the host name that's not quite right, and you might be on trying to access somebody else's machine. Okay, so it's just a security feature. So you type yes, permanently added, and now I'm logged into the CS server. So I can exit the CS server by typing exit, and if I could just run the SSH command again. On my keyboard, I can press up, the up arrow, to access any commands I've typed in previously, and down goes back down. So I press up arrow, and SSH back in. Now I'm on the CS server. So here, if I list out the contents of my directory, this is my home directory, but it's on the CS server. It is in no way, none of these files are located on my current machine, right? My desktop. This is all on the CS server. So I have this file.txt. Now let's say I want to move this file.txt from the CS server to my local computer. Okay, that's where the FTP client comes in. Okay, FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. Okay, so we're going to be transferring files from the CS server to our machine, and then files from our machine to the CS server. Okay, this is going to be critical throughout the duration of the course. As you work on things, you might work on it on your laptop or your desktop, and then you'll need to move them over to the CS server. Okay, so this is FileZilla. You can locate it just by Googling FileZilla. We'll pull that up real quick. Here we go. FileZilla is made by Mozilla, which is the company that makes Firefox, the web browser. Okay, so FileZilla, this first one, click on that, and then download FileZilla client. Alright, install it with the default settings, and then when you open it for the first time, you'll get a view similar to this. On this left-hand pane, this is your computer, the computer that FileZilla is running on. It's over here on the left, and then you can connect to a remote computer. This is where we're going to connect to the CS server, and it's going to be over here on the right. Alright, so in order to do that, we need to type in the host computer. We're going to be a guest in the host computer. So we're going to type cs.indstate.edu. This is the host computer we're going to connect to. What is our username? cs151.
'Password.
type in your password, and then this is important, the port is 22. A computer port, a networking port, is essentially just an address that tells the computer what program I want to talk to. Okay, so FTP clients normally communicate, at least secure FTP clients communicate over port 22 because that's a secure shell, and all of our communication happens over this port. So that's basically telling the CS server, hey, I need to communicate with whatever program is running on port 22. You can have thousands of programs running on one machine, and so you can have thousands and thousands of ports. So you need to figure out which program you want to interact with. That's what a port number is for. Alright, so we're interacting with the secure shell to transfer files. So that's port 22. Alright, we quick connect. And then now over here in this pane, this is a view of the file system on the CS server. Okay, the left-hand view is the file system on my computer. So I'm running Linux on this machine, so you see it starts out with slash. Just like over here on the CS server, it starts out with slash. Slash is a directory. See, I can collapse this. It's a directory itself, and if I go to slash u1 slash class and then CS151, this is my home folder. Okay, now if I click on a directory up here, the contents of that directory shows up down here. Alright, so this is similar to our terminal window. I'm logged into the CS server here. I'm in U1 class CS151, U1 class 151. If I type the ls command, it lists out all of the files in that directory. Okay, now notice there's some extra ones over here that start with a period. Those are hidden files. If I want to see those, I type ls-a to show all files, including hidden ones. Now I see the ones that start with a dot. So on Linux systems, files that start with a period are thought of as hidden files. Alright, so I can also list things out vertically, ls-al, and now we see everything looks similar to over here. I've got the SSH folder, I've got the X session errors, desktop, right, bin. They're in slightly different order, but that's fine. Right, and you see this dot dot up here. What that means, that's a shortcut. When I double click on this folder, it actually takes me to the parent folder. And I have one of these in here too when I list it out. Now this is a shortcut, and it just means go to the parent directory. So up here, I'm in U1 class CS151. If I double click on the dot dot, now I'm in the parent directory. Okay, same over here. If I change directories, cd changes my directory, changes my folder. If I type cd dot dot, now you see my current working directory has changed. I'm in U1 class, just like up here. So dot dot means go to the parent. Right, and remember, the terminal is just a text-based interface for interacting with the file system like this. Okay, you can do additional things as well. Alright, so in FileZilla, let's say I want to transfer the file that I had on the CS server in my CS151 account. I have file.txt. Okay, now I want to, over here, I want to go to my home folder, which is Luke, and go to desktop, and I'm just going to move this to my desktop. Okay. Actually, for each course, you may want to create, CS151. So I'll just create a CS151 folder on my desktop, and then you can keep all of your CS151 related stuff in this folder. Okay. So if I look here, we see I might have to refresh. Sometimes FileZilla doesn't pick up on things right away, but it has picked up on this folder, and it's empty right now. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to move this file from the CS server. Remember, the CS server is all on the right hand side. I want to move it to the left hand side in this empty folder. And there it is. Now let's open this folder and see what we have. Sure enough, there's my file. Okay. So let's open another terminal. Now this terminal on top is my computer. The terminal on the bottom, I've logged into the CS server. Alright, so I want to navigate into this directory. Alright, so I'm in my home directory. If I type ls, I can see what folders and files are in here. So I want to go to my desktop. So cd to change directory, desktop. Type ls to see what's inside. Now there's my CS151 folder right there. cd cs151 ls, and there's my file, file.txt. Now there is a command from the terminal that lets you see what's inside of a file. It's called cat. It stands for concatenate. I'm going to look and see what's inside this file. Cat file.txt. If I remember, it just says hello. Okay. So this little character here means it's the end of the file, the little %. Alright, if I go back over to the CS server, we can see cd cs, or I'll just cd to my home directory, and there's the file, and I can say cat file.txt, and there it is. It says hello, and it didn't print out a new line, so then it just printed out the prompt afterwards. Okay, so that's a little confusing, so I'm going to add a new line character to this file on my machine, and then I'm going to move it back over to the CS server. Okay, so one thing I can do is I can just open this up with some text editor using my file system, using my applications for my operating system. So I can open with a text editor, and I get something like this, and I press enter. It adds a new line. So if I save that and close the file, now remember this terminal is in my computer, so if I show the contents of that file, we use the cat command, now we see the new line characters there. We don't have this anymore because there's a new line character. Alright, now if we move this over to the CS server using FileZilla, this is my file that I've now changed this. This is the file on my computer. I want to move it back over here, and it's going to copy over the old one over here. So it's asking me would I like to overwrite the file because it already exists, and I'm going to say okay. Alright, so now back to the terminal over here, ls-al, I'm listing all of the files. I have file.txt, which I did before, but now I want to see if I got the new file that I've transferred. It should have a new line. So if I type cat to show the contents of the file, file.txt, sure enough, now I have the new line character. Okay, so before when I ran it, hello just showed up right before the command prompt was printed to the terminal. Okay, so now we see that there's a new line character. So it looks like it worked. So this is how you can move files from your computer to the CS server and vice versa. And I recommend you have some sort of workflow. So if you have a CS151 folder, basically you can just copy everything in your home directory to this, and then when you've changed something, copy it over to the CS server. Right? So you might have, for example, a labs directory. So I can say new folder, labs. Alright? This terminal is my machine. If I say ls, I see I have a labs directory. I can change directory and go into labs. cd labs. And I can say ls. It's empty. There's nothing in here. I can also make directories from the terminal. mkdir. Right? And I want to make lab 0. If I type ls now, I see lab 0. If I open this file now, I see lab 0. Okay, then I might make a new document in here, test.py. This is the .py is the extension for a Python file. And I might just add something in here. This is some really basic Python code. It prints test to the screen. Okay. So now I can see what's inside that file using the cat command. First I need to make sure I'm inside of lab 0, so I change directory, cd, lab 0, I type ls. Okay, so you're going to need to get familiar with typing cd all the time and ls all the time. That's basically how you navigate, similar to having a file browser open. You always change a directory and then list the contents, cd and ls. Alright, so I have ls, and then I want to see what's inside of this file, so that's the cat command. Alright, so what's inside test.py? Sure enough, it printed out test. Alright, I open it with the text editor again. Sure enough, it's there. I'm going to add a new line. Alright, save it, press up on the keyboard arrows, and it goes to my last command. See, that's down and then up, and I can see that my new line character was added. Now I can move all of this. If I right click here, I refresh what's in the folder, and now my labs folder and lab 0 has shown up. I can move all of this over to my CS151 home account. Now over here I see labs. This terminal is the CS server. Type ls, I see labs. I can change directory into labs, cd into lab 0, and there's test. Let's see what's inside of there. Okay, so this is how you move files back and forth. It's one way. This is probably the easiest way, and you have a graphical user interface here with using FileZilla. So you can reference this video whenever you need to move files. Alright, that will do it for this one.